And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas. These are our night terrors. Are you ready to be terrified? Because I'm going to do everything I can to bring you there. This is not a spooky, weirded out kind of show. This is a fun conversation about the weirdness that is the paranormal. So I like to have a good time with it, and I don't know, just have a lighthearted talk about some of the weirdness that's out there and what people are experiencing. And I hope you like that too. If you do, you're in the right place. Hold on a sec. Got a cough. See that professionalism? I just muted that out. You didn't even hear me cough. You might have seen me make the motion, but you didn't hear it. And that's the key to top quality broadcasting. If you hear coughs, that's not top quality broadcasting. So anyway, welcome to the show, everybody. These are the Night Terrors. These are our shorter format Paranormal Portal episodes that deal primarily with ghostly encounters because, there's a lot of them. There's a ton of ghostly encounters. So on Sunday and Thursdays, if you're new to the show, our format is to do these shorter format shows. And then Wednesday, Friday, Saturday are 2-hour shows that can be anything. And got a couple of great guests I'm lining up for some of these shows as we speak. And I can't quite let the cat out of the bag yet because I'm not sure how one of them's going to taper down, whether it's just going to be a podcast appearance or if they're going to appear live on the YouTube as well. So I'm holding off on that one. The other one, they're both kind of nebulous right now. And I don't want to preemptively say, hey, guess who's coming on the show? Because, I don't want it to fall through and then have it go bad. And so I'm keeping quiet until we get it all solidified because God knows in this business, anything can happen and things that you thought were going to happen can just turn on their head. And so it's hard to know. So once I get everything solidified, written down and scheduled, I will let you guys know. But suffice it to say, there's some pretty incredible shows coming up. And I'm really, really excited about them. And one of those is actually this Friday. I will be welcoming our very own Deborah Varner to the show, and she will be doing live psychic readings to callers of the show. So, if you haven't witnessed those shows before, check it out. Deb's been coming on the show for years doing this. She's a brilliant, wonderful, loving soul, and she really, really has this dialed in. I mean, she's, in my opinion, whatever that's worth, and you have to make up your own opinion, but in my opinion, she is really the real deal. She's not somebody that takes a lot of verbal cues and puts together some kind of narrative that might fit or might kind of fit. And she doesn't throw out, some of this stuff like some of the psychics that are out there. They throw out these psychological games. Do you take the letter K? It's like, sure. I don't know. Do you have that? And that's supposed to mean, is there anybody living or dead that has the letter K in their name? And well, yeah, I mean, that can lead you down any road. And they do that. They like to do these real, it's like a psychological banter to get you to lead them to a message. I have a real problem with those kind of psychics. Some people don't, and that's cool, but I do because, I think that it's just it's a magician's trick, But someone like Deb, she says, who am I talking to? Give your first name. And what do you want to know about romance? How's my romance looking? That's it. That's your involvement. And she will just start going. And the thing she pulls up out of absolutely nowhere is just incredible. I've been listening to her doing it for years. So I really believe she's the real deal. She's helped me a ton personally and professionally by coming on the shows. So I know you're going to love her. So that'll be this Friday night, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time right here on YouTube. So definitely tune in, and you'll call the same number that you always call, 720-923-0500. 720-923-0500. Those are the numbers for fun right here on the Paranormal Portal. So just give it a ring on Friday. But you can call that anytime. Anytime the portal is live, unless we have a guest, then we may not be taking calls. But I love hearing from you guys. If you got something paranormal to share tonight, I'd love to hear from you. And I already gave you the number. I even showed you where it was in case you forget. And just give me a call. Love to hear from you. So I guess that's all I got on the front end. But exciting shows coming up, ladies and gentlemen. Exciting shows. All right. I hope you all are ready because it's time for bed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I guess this is the part where we get started, right? Let's do it. I've got a bunch of stories pulled up for you guys that I hope you're gonna enjoy. I think I'm enjoying them. I haven't even read them yet, so we'll read them together. The first story tonight is coming out of the state of Illinois, and it has to do with apparitions, voices, and touches. Story starts out, when I was 16, I was a nanny for 2 children, Emily, who was 4 at the time, and Shelby, who was 2. I became really close with the girls' family and would often stay by their mother's house just in case I was needed during the night or day. Their mother was a truck driver and was often gone. Once they moved to into their uncle's home, I spent a lot of time over there helping with the girls and cleaning the house. One night, the family decided to go to some movies. Their uncle, his daughter, and Shelby left. Their mother was working. But Emily and I had sat up all day, and she was getting crabby, so I took her upstairs for a nap until they got back. Well, she didn't want to sleep alone, which was strange for her being a small child. She was very independent. So I, of course, switched off the lights and lay down with her, and she curled up in my arms and was soon fast asleep. I must have dozed off as well because the sound of heavy footsteps made me fling my eyes open and look around the dark room. Well, Emily was still in my arms, and I thought the sound was something in my dreams until it began again in the room across the hallway. I listened for a moment, but no one was home yet. I would have heard them all downstairs, and their uncle never came upstairs for anything. Well, I tried to look down the hallway from the place where we were laying. I had to turn slightly with her in my arms, and the bedroom across the hall's door was shut, as usual. The thudding stopped. I soon began to sink back down into the bed with her when the door to the other room creaked open slightly. God, that's creepy. I looked back up at the door, but nothing came out. My heart started to pound. I wanted to pick up Emily and run for the stairs, but the staircase began in the middle of the hallway just next to the bedroom. I was afraid, so running was out of the question. I laid back down with her, hoping that a window was the cause of the door opening, even though they opened inward towards the room. I was still sticking with the logic it could have been the wind, and once I was laying back down, I heard the sound of footsteps again and looked up. A dark mass was standing in the doorway. Getting goosebumps right now just writing this. I ran towards the bed. I could make out the shape of a tall, thin build. I could make out the outstretched arms reaching towards Emily, and then it stopped next to the bed. Well, I yelled at it to stay away from her and pulled her closer to me, and it laughed. A low and twisted sort of laugh before it finally vanished. Once it was gone, the door across the hall slammed shut, and I grabbed Emily and ran downstairs. Her uncle came in a few minutes later and said I looked pale. I never told him about the spirit, and I never spent the night there after that. Wow. So, I don't blame this person. I really don't. But if, the thing is that you became aware of something that could be attacking a child. How would you just stay away then and just say, that's your problem. I'm out of here. I'll come over for the days, but never at night, ever. That's scary. That's really scary. And there are things out there that prey on children. And specifically prey on children and the very old. The very young and the very old tend to be targets because neither of which can defend themselves like the young and vigorous or the younger and vigorous. I don't know if it has to do with an aura or energy or what it is, but the very young are, of course, vulnerable for any number of reasons. And the very old can be vulnerable for those same reasons, just inability to defend themselves and the feeling of vulnerable. So when you feel vulnerable in energetic terms, you become vulnerable. I believe that energy follows intention. And as we get older, I guess our soul, our energy focus in this plane of existence maybe is weaker and makes us more susceptible to spiritual attack, or it's just because it's the twilight of life and maybe our life force is fading from this place. And I don't know. I mean, But I've always heard, and again, I've mentioned this many times, I grew up with a lot of esoteric beliefs given to me, and I believe them because in more cases than not, I think that they've proved to be very, very accurate and very true. So I don't ever scoff at those ideas, but there are some entities that just, they prey on these two types of people. And I think it's really important to protect those type of people. But so this person deciding not to go back, it's like, yeah, I know you preserve your own skin, but at the same time, if you love a kid, wouldn't you want to be there or at least address this problem with the family? Like, hey, this is what I saw. It freaked me out and you need to be careful. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I wouldn't not come back. I guess I would be drawn to come back more to do what I could to help, but I don't know. Very wild story, very scary. That is horrifying. And again, I can't vouch for this being real, but everything I bring to you on this show is represented as real. I will never bring you fabricated stories. I will never bring you exaggerations or anything to that measure. If I share it with you on the show, it's only because it has been presented to me as absolutely factual and true. So in some of these stories, it's hard to know. And this wasn't submitted directly to me. It's just one that I found years ago. But, it is represented as truth. So if it is true, that's absolutely terrifying. Great, Aussie. I'm glad you called. And we just finished that story. So I guess I can talk to you now. All right, here we go. Mr. Aussie, you're on the phone. Thank you for letting me know. What's on your mind?
I actually experienced something paranormal last night. Well, I'm more of a witness to it.
Nice.
On a live stream with a fellow Aussie. And we were on a panel and we're chatting away and we noticed something strange happening with someone else's thing. Because they had the good lights on and all that, and their cameras going in and out, and it's like, what's going on? All of a sudden, we saw a shadow figure.
Ooh.
More shadow figures. Suddenly move, and yet there was no one else there with them.
Wow. Where was this?
Yeah.
Where?
On YouTube.
On YouTube? Okay.
Yeah. Because we're doing a live stream, we're just chatting away, and like I said, all of a sudden, just briefly, what's her name, Terry, turned the lights off for a minute, and all of a sudden, it's bobbing of a head, followed by some fingers moving. I'll put it this way, the way they moved, it's kind of similar to how Pennywise did his little finger wave.
Oh, geez. Wow. Is that recorded on their live stream? Did it record? Is it something that we can check out?
Yep, and they re-uploaded it. The channel is Unearthly Wanderings.
Okay, the Unearthly Wanderings? Okay. Yeah, I'm going to look into that. I mean, I'm not going to do it now, obviously, because I want to look into it and see if I can reach out to them but I'm gonna make note of that. And did you remember it was the live stream from last night?
Yeah, it just happened last night, and even watching it again, it still gives me chills.
Yeah, that's creepy. I'm gonna reach
like
out to them.
She clipped the re-upload.
Go ahead.
It was the last video she uploaded after the live stream.
Mm-hmm.
So she re-uploaded it and just tried to show you like a close-up, try and clear it up a bit so you can actually see it. It's like, whoa. It's like, how the hell did we miss that?
Wow, that's creepy. That's really powerful.
Still gives me a chill just watching it again.
That is amazing, brother. Yikes. That kind of stuff can happen. I guess, a lot of there's a lot of videos on YouTube of people capturing things that happen during live streams. And a lot of times it's during the gamers live streams and stuff where they're going for quite a long time. But there's this one video out there where this guy's at his friend's apartment and he's doing his gaming stream. And there's two doors behind him way in the back. And it could be staged, but all of a sudden those doors are opening and closing and lights coming on and a box gets flung. And it's like, wow, if that's legitimate, that is absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I just have to kind of let you know what I experienced just the other night. I was like, I got to tell you this.
Do you know the
It
direct?
gave me the chills. I was like,
Do you have a link to that stream itself?
I posted, but I can actually quickly get you the link.
Yeah, see if you could. I would appreciate that. It would just make it would make it easier for me to track it down and have a look, and then see about reaching out. I'll reach out to the channel owners and see if they'll give us permission to show it. That'd be really cool, brother.
Yeah, I'm
Excellent.
pretty sure she'll be more than happy to. Just let me give me
Okay.
a set, and I'll send it to you by messenger.
Excellent, brother. Thank you so much, and I really appreciate. Any of you guys out there, if you guys see stuff like this, let me know. Yeah, it would be great, and you guys are part of the show as well. So that kind of content is wonderful, and if we can show it, I definitely will. But if not, we'll definitely share the link with everybody so they can go check it out themselves. Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, brother.
Link copied. All right, I'm just going to into Messenger to there and send it to you.
Oh man, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much, Aussie. That's really cool.
Yeah. All right. Let's see.
How's everything
All
else?
right, link sent.
Everything else going good, brother?
Yeah.
Good.
Yep. It's showing me sent and delivered.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Let me look and just see if it showed up here yet. Uh-oh. Let's see. I'll click OK. I got some error on my Facebook, so I'm just looking at it here.
Yeah.
Okay. I just had to close my Facebook. Something was airing out, but I'm going to reopen my Facebook here in a second and I'll look for it. But thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's all right.
All right, brother. Well, stay in touch, and thank you for calling. It's great to hear from you.
Yeah, no worries.
All right. Take care, Victor. Very cool. Yeah, you guys are really the eyes and ears of the show. I mean, I get out and look as much as I can, but there's thousands and thousands and thousands of channels and shows out there. So, and additionally, if you find a good one, let me know. I always like checking out new shows and to see what people are doing, and that's fantastic. Let me see. I'm gonna just log back on and see if that link did come through. But I don't want to show it without their permission. We can obviously, there's fair use and stuff, but it'd be really cool if we could talk to those people and get the inside scoop on it. Yeah, there it is. He did send it. So I got the link here. I will check into it. And I guess, yeah, I'll check into it. It's craziest paranormal evidence caught so far. That's really cool. Okay. Yeah, man. I love it when you guys point this stuff out. That's brilliant. Brilliant, Aussie. Thank you, brother. Okay, so back to where we were. Where were we? So we're done with that story. Let's get to the next story here. And this next story is coming from Alabama, ladies and gentlemen. And it is Apparitions, Voices, and Touches. So it says, the haunting in my parents' home started when I was just 13 years old. I woke up one morning and went to the kitchen to eat breakfast, and my mom was sitting just staring at the kitchen table, I think they mean at the kitchen table, and I could sense that something was bothering her. So we started talking about what we were going to do that day, and eventually she told me what was going on. She told me that morning she had gotten up early and was washing clothes in the laundry room, and at the back of the laundry room was the dryer, and she stood there folding clothes. She said she started to feel sick and could feel someone standing in the doorway behind her. She didn't turn to see who was there, but continued folding clothes, and then she heard crying, a child's cry. She turned to look, thinking it was me or one of my younger brothers up from a bad dream, but there was nobody there, and the crying continued. She said she could look at the exact point the crying was coming from, and it started to move away from her, going in the dining room, and she followed the crying, and it continued to move out of the dining room and into the living room, and from the living room into the hallway until it then just faded away. She was left standing there thinking that she was going crazy, with the sick, sinking feeling still fresh in her abdomen, and I believed her. I was shocked that she would tell me such a thing, because my mom is always very level-headed and never talked about these kind of things, such as spirits or ghosts. And from then on, my mom and I and my youngest brother would experience many odder and unexplainable things. So this is kind of an interesting story in that it sounds like they were in the house for many years and never had anything happen. So what suddenly happened? What suddenly introduced that presence? Where did it come from? Why then? What was going on at that moment? And these are all questions that I would have for this person if I were talking to them. What happened? Was something brought into the house that didn't used to be there? It is, antiques, pre-owned items. Was there something that happened near the home where maybe a wandering transient spirit would have just stopped in because, there was maybe a car accident somewhere nearby? Because it wasn't a phenomenon that they've been dealing with for a long time, but something happened to trigger that phenomena to begin. Now, the age of the house can be relevant, but it's not necessary. Many times we've heard about brand new houses, and I lived in a brand new house that was actually haunted. I mean, there was no history to the house because it was just built. But what we don't know is what's the history to the land. What used to be there? And I don't know. In my case, I don't know. But it was, what was it, like 1990, I guess, 90, 91, somewhere in there. Probably 1991, and my ex and I moved into a house, a brand new house that my uncle had built. And it was fine. It was a nice little house, split level, whatever the hell you call them, split level house. You come in on the middle and you can either go up or down. There's a name for that kind of stuff, but it was brand new. It was absolutely brand new. And soon after we moved in, footsteps all the time, furniture creaking, sometimes some muffled noises. Not sure if it was voices or moans or what, but there was some kind of oddness, and then the weirdness. That's actually the place where I saw my first orb with my naked eyes. I mean, it was just right in front of my face. At the time, I didn't know what it was. I was just seeing this weird little light. I didn't have a real developed vocabulary back then. I had an interest for years and years, but there were a lot of things I didn't know much about, and one of them was orbs. That was something I would learn about much later, but to have one right in front of your face, and then to that was also the same house. I was taking a shower, and the shower went ice cold all of a sudden, like someone was doing dishes, and I turned off the shower after I got the soap rinsed out, and the sink next to the shower was blasting full blast hot, and it was just a lot of weirdness like that. There were many other stories in that house, but those are the big ones. And that was brand new, so it wasn't necessary to have 150-year-old house that's seen a lot of death and tragedy, or a lot of people living in it. But the land's always been there, ladies and gentlemen, and that can be a big thing. You can introduce hauntings into your home just by building it in the wrong place. It's hard to know. I know that this land was very close to some Native American burial mounds in Minnesota, and so it's very possible that years before, maybe there had been a mound there or something of that effect. But it wasn't necessarily evil. It wasn't necessarily malicious. It was just something that was there, and it seemed really intent on making sure we knew it was there. And the next house that we moved to was at the old Victorian house that I owned, and that was an incredible house. But that one did have a lot of history, not necessarily of death or anything, but just a lot of history. And so sometimes those places can just be a comfortable place for something to settle in. But I'd have a lot of questions for these people. What changed suddenly, that when this person's 13 years old, suddenly they've got a haunting? Something introduced it, and I can't even say the land at that point, because if it was the land, it would have been something there all along. If it was, the house, It would have been there all along. Something changed at that moment to bring something into the house. And so that's where I would start. And that's, a word of advice to any of you out there that might be dealing with something. When did it start? What changed? Many objects can have spiritual attachments, can have something clinging to it. People can get attachments that they bring home just for being somewhere. Doing ghost hunting is a big one. Very easy to get spiritual attachments when you're ghost hunting because there is a spiritual contract of sorts when you're out there asking something questions and you're encouraging a communication. You may be inadvertently giving it permission to be connected to you. And so that's why it's very important at the close of any investigation to stop it, cleanse, pray, do some kind of anointing or purifying, and then leave. Don't just hop in your car and call it a night, because whatever's going on probably could be coming with you. I imagine, sometimes they just like people. Sometimes they just dislike people. In either case, they tend to stick around. All right, so that was that story. Very, very cool story. Very weird. I don't know. That whole sickness and sadness thing is pretty hard. I don't know. That sounds like something, at least something twisted. Not necessarily dark, but maybe twisted. And something coming from a lot of pain and agony. All right, the next one is coming from Oregon. See what I did there? I said Oregon. Don'll be so proud. All right, from Oregon, this has to do with miscellaneous stuff, and it's not real long, pretty short story. And this one says, I've submitted stories before. Let me go. Let's see. There was one that where I had an admirer, a ghost or whatever that I had experience with him, and I've always felt him near me, but he's not made contact since our time together years ago. I hope this isn't one of those Twilight kind of stories. Until February 25th of this year, and this year the story was written was 2009, ladies and gentlemen, so it's not this year. My aunt, who myself and my son were living with, due to her being ill, had passed on February 24th, and I was devastated, more so than I ever thought I could be. I'd been up all night trying to get things in order and waiting for my mother's plane to arrive when, at around 3 a.m., I felt dizzy, and I must have fainted. Well, when I came to, I was on the sofa, and he was there kneeling next to me with one hand on my forehead and the other holding both of my hands, and he whispered something like, "Are you okay?" or "All right." All right. I can't really remember the words clearly. I was watching his face because the look on his face was almost heartbroken. Then, like a dummy, I pulled my hand out from under his and reached up to touch his face. And he backed away real quick like I was going to hurt him or something. These kind of stories, I don't know. Anyway, I'll continue. By now we were both on our feet, although I felt like I was going to puke, but I said, "Please don't leave me again." Sorry. These are just, I don't know. All right, I'll continue. I'm sorry. And to my surprise, he took a step towards me, reached out and helped me to sit back down. Oh, God. He sat next to me still on the verge of puking, and he wrapped his arms around me, and I had laid my head on his shoulder. Thank God this isn't long. The next thing I remember is waking up to someone knocking on the door. I was lying alone on the sofa and heard my mother's voice saying my name outside of the door. 4 days later, after the funeral, my family, lawyers, and everything else was done, I was determined to make him come back to me. So I drug a lawn, L-A-W-N, into the trees next to my aunt's house and said out loud like a fool, "I'm not moving until I see you again." Must have been a lawn chair, maybe. And unfolded the chair and sat. I had only closed my eyes for a few seconds when I felt pressure on my face. I opened my eyes and there he was, smiling down at me. I smiled back, but before I could cover my mouth, the words were spewing out like The Exorcist. I said, "Oh God, I love you and have all these years. Why have you left me alone all this time?" I'm not sure how long I talked before I noticed that he was just smiling and waiting. Oh, this is painful. When I finally shut up, he He said he'd always loved me and that has always been there with me, and that he can't be a regular part of my life the way he wants because it isn't allowed. When I asked what he meant, he just said it wasn't allowed. He sat with me until the sun went down, kissed me, whispered, "I love you" in my ear, and said he would see me again soon. I told him that I loved him and said, "But when will I see you again?" He smiled, touched my face, and then he was gone. Cue violins. Okay, this is one of those stories. They're just, I don't know. It's just too much. Just too much. That's the problem with these stories that are, 2009 was kind of when that whole Twilight thing was happening. And you'll see these every once in a while, these stories that are, I don't know, like trying to create an Edward Cullen kind of situation. Ugh. But I'm sorry for that, ladies and gentlemen. And if you're one of those people that really like, why are you mocking that? Why are you mocking that? Look, I can't help it. I can't help it. It's like, do people communicate with spirits? Sure. But do people have these forbidden love, denied passion, novel type of experiences? I don't believe it. I don't. I can't get my head around it. It's just too much. It's the term I use in some stories is the orgy of evidence. It's like too much. There's just too much. It's like there's so much going on. There's such a powerful interaction and this violin moments, and it's like I just can't get there. I can't get there, and to me it's just a bunch of garbage. And I apologize if that offends anybody out there, but I can't apologize for my own regards in terms of these kind of things. But I don't think that creating a fantasy world helps this field out at all. I don't think creating these romantic tragedies is moving along the whole idea of the paranormal and how to understand it and how do we learn from it. It's just this fluffy, I don't know, Harlequin novels that people are creating. And I don't believe this happened. I really don't. Could they have a presence around them? Sure. Could it maybe be attached to them in a loving way? Sure. But I don't think it's they're caressing their face or saying, "I love you," and they're having this incredible dialogue. I just don't buy it. And that's my paradigm. That's me. But that's why I have trouble with stories like this. So come to your own conclusions, obviously. And I read the whole thing, even though I was really getting the gag reflex there. I did read it through for any of you that enjoyed that story. And I'm not mocking you, but just think about, how likely is this? Not very at all. Okay, moving on to something a little more grounded in reality, hopefully. I'm reading about the paranormal. I'm talking about grounded in reality. It's like, you understand what I'm saying. Okay, this one's coming from Massachusetts. It says, family and friends visits. I was in my room listening to music, as I always do, when all of a sudden I was overwhelmed with sadness and started sobbing uncontrollably. I looked up at the clock on the wall, 9:50 p.m. I said to myself, what's the matter with me? Why am I crying? The phone rang 2 minutes later, and I froze in the doorway, not wanting to answer it because I knew at this point what it was about. After several rings and my parents not answering, I mustered up the courage and picked up the receiver. Well, it was my grandmother, calm at first. As she asked for my mom, she started crying, and I couldn't speak. My mom picked up at that point, and then I slowly hung up the phone. I went back in my room crying hysterically when all of a sudden, the most euphoric feeling came over me. It entered my body through the top of my head and swept all the way through and exited my toes. It was the most incredible feeling in the world and not attainable on earth, only in the heavens. At that moment, that very moment, I stopped crying and I smiled. It was my grandfather telling me that he was in heaven. with the angels, and it will be all right. I could not believe it. Nothing had ever happened to me like that before. It was a sure sign that God exists and that I have never doubted him since that day. The hellish experience that happened afterwards, still to this day, it haunts me, and I've been trying to figure out what demon he was. It occurred during the night while I was asleep next to my boyfriend at the time. Nothing was new and nothing was different. I was sound asleep when I woke, but I hadn't opened my eyes yet and felt this extreme evil presence I can never forget and never want to feel again. The evil presence was so strong, it flooded the entire bedroom. I felt it all over my skin as it made goosebumps all over my body. I was petrified and literally said to myself, "What the hell is that?" A feeling so strong, I believe it to be only something you feel from the presence of the devil himself. I slowly opened my eyes, fearing for what I would see, and it was the biggest black figure, just about 8 or 9 feet tall, with no face, just an outline of a huge, thick body, all black. He was standing next to my side of the bed, piercing me with the eyes, which I couldn't see, but I knew they were there. I knew he was angry, angrier than you could ever imagine. He was out to get me, and to take my soul is what it felt like. He just stared at me for about 3 or 4 minutes, and all of a sudden, I was greatly overcome with a peaceful, safe feeling. Someone or something was protecting me. The demon could not harm me, and I knew it, so I rolled over and just went back to sleep. In the morning, I told my boyfriend, and he didn't really believe me, of course, but I know it was real. Nothing could explain that figure and the evil that emitted from him. Anyone with a similar experience, I would love to hear about it. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like when you're in the presence of evil, of something just dark and evil, you'll know it. You know, it's just like it's like walking in oil, and you feel this repulsive feeling all over, and you feel that drop in the pit of your stomach, and it's like something sucks all the light out of the room, and everything just becomes bleak and horrible, and it's horrid, absolutely horrid. So I believe this story wholeheartedly. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder why this thing was suddenly drawn to her or him. I guess her, because she said, yeah. But I don't know. What does that have to do with the grandfather passing? I don't know. It's very, very weird. But when things like that come, and when we had my good friend Dan Pruitt on the show, who's a paranormal investigator, and he talked about one night he was in his wife, and he had an apartment at the time and a little baby, and which is his daughter's much more grown now, but he's talking about this story about he had just, I don't know, for some reason he had slept on the couch. I think it was just because something was up with his back or something, but he was out on the couch, and he said he suddenly was woken up by this dark, horrible feeling. And he said it was like the light was getting sucked out of the room. It was just so dark, and he could feel it. And he said that the funny thing was, I mean, this is a paranormal investigator, but he said he suddenly was overcome with a fear that he couldn't imagine. It was just overwhelming, this fear, this terror that was suddenly just in the room. And he didn't know what to do, but he just laid there absolutely still. And he said he was able to see a little bit of light from underneath his door in the hallway of the apartment complex. And he said it just got really, really heavy. And then he said he could see this big shadow move by his door just from that light underneath the door. And he said it just went past, and as it got further away, that horrible feeling lightened up and more until it was eventually gone. But this is a situation where, he was very, very acutely aware of it. Now, Dan is a real level-headed guy. He's not one of those extraordinarily, emotionally reactive people. He's just very even keel. It was with he and I were in Coloma alone the first year after Duke and his team moved on, and it was just he and I on the top of this mountain. But he was unflappable. Nothing about that night, sent him sideways or anything. He was just very even keeled, and we had a wonderful time just looking into this investigation. But to have that sense and to have that feeling is so incredibly powerful and scary. That stuff is out there. That stuff is really out there. I have no doubt. Having experienced something of that myself, it's horrid. It's absolutely horrid. But I think whatever they send out, whatever this is, if it's just some kind of, you're basically feeling the malice in these things, or if it's something they send out to try to, as a way to disarm their potential prey. I don't know. I'm not sure, but it is just horrible. So these dark things are out there, ladies and gentlemen. I have no doubt about it. And I'm glad this person made it through okay. That is absolutely terrifying. The next story is from Alabama, ladies and gentlemen. Has to do with apparitions, voices, and touches again. And this one's not real long either, but it says, my brothers and I were repelled from my parents' room, which was at the end of the hall. Psychic warfare, so to speak. Yeah, absolutely, Farm. It's like a psychic warfare. I think that they make us feel that terror. It's kind of like Bigfoot in infrasound, but it's more energetic. But the idea is that Bigfoot emanates, or tigers or elephants or whatever can emanate this sound that's subsonic, and it makes you afraid or unable to move. It kind of confuses you, stuns you. But in this case, it's like a wavelength of just evil, and it just permeates you, or and that's the hard part, is not to let it permeate you, I guess. But you really got a shield if you're ever in the presence of something like that that's making you afraid. You got to focus on that barrier of light on you, just to wrap yourself in a bubble of light, and hang on. So my brothers and I were repelled from our parents' room, which was at the end of the hall. It always felt darker and more closed in than the rest of our house. We ran from it after shutting the door, the hair standing up on the back of our necks. Devin, the older of the two, denied his fear of Mom and Dad's room, but one day he couldn't deny it any longer. Devin, Cameron, and I were playing in the hallway one day, and I would say I was about 14, Devin was 7, and Cameron was 6. It was a sunny day, and the windows were up, and the sun shining through, ghosts far from mine and Cameron's minds. Oh, okay. My parents' bedroom door was slightly open, and you could see sunlight spilling through one of the 2 windows onto the floor. But both of my parents were at work at that time, so we were doing whatever we pleased. Devin had just asked me a question about what was vanquished from my mind when I heard a man's deep voice come from my parents' room and say one single word. In that very moment, I knew what he'd said, and goosebumps popped all over my body at light speed. Quickly looking at my brothers, who'd stopped in mid-movement, eyes wide. Devin's eyes were around his quarters, and Cameron and I looked at him, knowing that he now knew what we, in a way, had proof of, to proving the things we talked about seeing and hearing, that they were not figments of our imaginations. You could tell in that moment he believed. Devin shot up from the floor and bolted from the hall screaming. Cameron and I were on his heels. We sat in the living room out of breath and not saying a word, listening for whatever it was that had spoken from my parents' room. Devin finally spoke, breaking the heavy silence. What was that? And what did it say? I could not recall for the life of me what the voice had said to us, and I racked my memory at least once a week trying to think of what it could have been. This is one of the first voices I had ever heard, but the last Devin ever experienced. He will not speak of the event again, and denies the voice that he heard. Yikes. Next up is from Florida, and it has to do with haunted places. This one's a bit longer. What do we got? Oh, man. I guess I'll read this one to you. This is going to be a longer story, but this will fill up probably about the last 10 minutes. So buckle up, ladies and gentlemen. This is hopefully a good story. Hopefully we end on a really good one here. But we'll find out in just a minute. My experiences with the paranormal are very few. I'm not even sure I could say I am having any. For a while now, these ghost encounters, as I like to call them, has been going on. And to tell the truth, I don't know if it is a real encounter or just my mind making it all up. It began in the summer of 2009. I just recently turned 15 after having surgery from an accident I had. My family and I moved into this cute little yellow house on Newberry. My family only stayed there for a year, not due to any paranormal experiences, might I add. Only I seemed to be the one having them. I always loved listening to others' paranormal activities and dreamed of to be able to have one for myself. Dreamed of being psychic or something paranormal, and I thought from my first experience, quote unquote, it was just my overactive imagination. You see, following a few months after I moved in, I felt a presence always following me in that house. Then I began to have these weird dreams. They were about this girl who something bad had happened to by this serial killer who fell in love with her. The guy was her mother's boyfriend or somehow in close contact with her family through her family, from what I could tell, and he was about in his early 30s while she was in her early teens. The dream quickly sickened me, but I was also drawn to it, needed it. It seemed almost familiar to me. Jeez. Soon after the dream started, there were weird noises where it seemed like people were walking all around me, and sometimes it looked like someone was standing outside of my bedroom window. Then at night, I began to sleep with the blankets pulled over my head. For the reason that I shared a room with my older sister, who kept the bedroom to below freezing and could only sleep with the blankets over my head. Okay. About a week after doing this, it felt like someone was standing over my bed. This feeling started regularly when soon enough, I was positive I could hear someone breathing. However, as soon as I pulled the covers off, no one was there. The strange situation of these experiences was I felt comfortable with them. I was never scared. And also no one else had them. Then the blankouts started. I said blankouts. I think that's a blackout, but anyway. Soon enough, items were turning up missing, quickly being found in my room, or electronic items would turn on them by themselves, and no one thought anything of it. By then, I convinced myself it was all in my imagination, and my dreams quickly became my fascination, quickly becoming an obsessive. And I began to write about them, typing them up into a story that was all mine. I became very protective of it. It was never hard for me to plug the missing pieces of my dreams into the book, for it already felt like I had lived it. However, as soon as I began to write this story, I began to have my fits of rage where I ended up screaming or cursing at somebody. Only a few times have these fits ever become dangerous. I began to blank out at some of these moments or know exactly what I was doing but felt ashamed afterwards. Then I began not to care about me, about what I do. I seriously just wanted to die. I never told anyone about this and quickly diagnosed myself with depression. My fits of rage, I thought, were perfectly normal and just a symptom. I still think this today. I still carry some of these same thoughts and feelings. I even thought these fits were just my immaturity. I was just some depressed, immature teen. What else is new? Then I became bored and thought the house may be haunted from all my feelings. I wasn't even 2% sure that I was being haunted. I did a little investigation where it ended up showing nothing. I wasn't the least bit surprised, and afterwards I began to have these strange increasing pains where it either ended up being back pains or side pains, and the doctors never knew what it was. I didn't even really care. To me, the pain was bad, but helped me feel something other than anger. Then everything just stopped and my family moved, never knowing, still not knowing what I was going through, if I went through anything. Hold on. Okay. Now I am 16 and I'm living in this small white house. I still miss the yellow one, crazy enough. The presence in that house I was rid of when I moved out of this house, and it is what I missed the most. However, I believe that it may have followed me. For the first few months in this house, I tried to work on the story. I began at the yellow house but was unable to, and this white house was too calm for me, and I was still depressed. The fits of rage went away for a while and everything felt normal. Then everything began again. My writing exploded, the same story running in my head in many different ways. The familiar feeling came, and I felt somewhat relieved, but still felt emotions that I knew were not mine and only had when I was writing. Soon I thought it might be automatic writing I was experiencing, or me remembering a past life perhaps, but I'm still not sure. The presence in this house, I'm not sure if it's the same as the last house, and I still have the same theories of it not even being real. However, this time, I'm not the only one having them, but they still revolve around me. My sister and I still share a bedroom. In the middle of the night, we began to wake up between 2 and 4, still do that today. The first time this happened, we heard something in the bathroom, like walking or hitting the walls in a gentle, rhythmic manner. My sister was immediately terrified. I was fascinated. We got up and checked around. Nothing was in there. Everyone was sleeping, and we knew it was not the animals since the bathroom door was closed and they lay peacefully on the couch. We both went back to bed afterwards, my sister sleeping with the TV on, being afraid as she was, and me going just immediately back to sleep. Afterwards, my mom said she could hear voices outside where there would be no one out there, but she would go into the living room to check if her ears deceived her, and we were in there. And if we were in there, we were not. Everyone was sound asleep. Still, the previously locked and closed back door was open and the lights were on. We kids were blamed for that. A few weeks later, I was in my living room, listening to some music. When I looked towards my bookshelf, nothing being over there, I felt some presence. I took one step and a book flew off right in front of my feet. I was amazed and quickly tried to reenact it. So to debunk, they say debug, but debug it so to prove what was happening could not be accidental. I still cannot from this day. My friend came over somewhat later, being like me, a ghost fanatic and supposedly living in a haunted house, and her and her younger brother believed themselves to be psychic and told me that I was somewhat gifted in that way also. I soon thought I could feel and see auras, but not exactly sure. That night, the two of them spent the night at my place, and we played a Ouija board. Awesome. If you're already dealing with that kind of stuff, I think a Ouija board's the wrong toy. Nothing spectacular or anything at all happened in my bedroom, so we played in the garage since it seemed spookier. But still, nothing happened, so while they tried, I left to get a drink. My friend said as soon as I left, they heard something like a man growling or something like a madman, and they became frightened. Then they said the garage door made a banging sound and the key that sits in the box just flew off for no reason. They ran out of the garage terrified. To this day, they believe a spirit or a demon, and my depression symptoms are actually possession symptoms. Is following me and wants me for some reason. They usually come back whenever they can to see if we can catch any evidence, but about a week after this experience, my sister spent the night at a friend's house. I was sleeping in her bed when I felt as if someone walked into my room, and in fact, I heard footsteps. Very audible footsteps. Thinking it was my mom, I opened my eyes angrily since she did interrupt my sleep, and then the addicting dreams I've been having every night since the yellow house, but nothing was there. I still heard the footsteps, though, but this time from outside, I looked out the window, same as before, nothing. I got up, scared now, and went into the kitchen, pulled out a knife, and slept with it under my pillow. Ever since then, nothing has really happened except for me and my sister strangely being woken at the same exact time by nothing for any apparent reason. I'm still not completely sure if these experiences are real or just some fantasy a teenage girl has created, but still, I just wanted to say it to someone. I'm tired of keeping it inside. I need to know what other people think. By the way, this is all true. I can promise you that. Everything I say or type right now is all my true experiences. Just please don't think I'm crazy and don't judge me too harshly. Yeah, it could be. It could be something dark latched onto this girl. It sounds. I mean, obviously, it sounds like maybe it's the spirit of the guy that hurt this little child in her visions, if that is indeed accurate. But I don't know. Scary stuff, man. Time to sage. That's all I'm saying. In fact, that's one of the things I'm going to be doing here tonight. Had some weirdness going on in the Paranormal Portal homestead, so time to cleanse. It's been a while, so I guess it's about due. So I hope you guys are doing great. And again, remember, Monday and Tuesday we are not doing live shows here on YouTube, but please get subscribed if you're new. If you're new to the show and if you like what you're hearing and you want to be a part of it whenever we stream, please subscribe and hit the bell. That'll hopefully notify you and let you know when we're live. But if you don't do that, just remember 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Wednesday through Sunday. We are doing a live stream right here on YouTube, so I hope you guys will come back. We'd love to have you be a part of the family, but if you're not one to just subscribe to whatever, then I understand. Hopefully, we'll earn your subscription sooner or later. But thank you all for being here, all of you. I hope you guys have a great couple days. Remember, we are also a podcast, and that podcast will be released after I get off the show. Here, I'm going to start getting that all loaded up and ready to go. It's an interview I had with Rob, and we'll put that on the podcast. If you're not familiar with our podcast, we can be found on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Pandora, Spotify, Stitcher, Castbox, Google Play, and just a bunch of other ones. We're all over the place. So I hope you guys will check that out. It was a great interview. We had a good time talking, and I'm going to have him back on because he had a whole bunch more. We could have gone for 2 hours easily and still not run out of his experiences. So that'll be coming up after I get off the air here. I'm going to get it up as soon as I can. But just so you know, that's what's going on. But I love you guys. Love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice to each other, help each other out. Find the magic in every day and remember to laugh as much as you can. So I'll be back on Wednesday night with Don here on the live stream. So I hope you guys will come back then and we'll tear it up. And you never know. Maybe there'll be more. Just saying. All right, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Take care and sweet dreams.